Joining us in studio, it's Executive Vice President and General Manager Nick Caserio. Nick, great to see you.
Fellas, good to be here.
Congratulations on the win. It's week 6. It's bye week for the Texans, but you're coming off the win. And tell us about that. How does it feel to ace the test before the bye?
No, had a good week of preparation and went into the game and played well. Baltimore was without a number of players. We kind of knew that going in. I think the big thing, the focus was just on our execution and doing things that we felt, were conducive to winning. The run game was a big part of it. Derrick Henry is obviously one of the best backs in the league, has been for a long time. So there's certainly heightened awareness and emphasis on him, and we did a good job handling the running game. We're able to take the ball away on defense, and then offensively played really efficient, scored in the first 8 drives or whatever it was. So you saw a number of positives in the game. I think the big thing for us is trying to continue to build on the things we've done well here over the last few weeks. And, we've talked over the, first 5 weeks or so, even in the first 3 games of the year, came down to, 1 or 2 plays on the last possession of the game. So it speaks to the margins, how small they are, and just speaks to you doing the little things on a consistent basis. And if you do those things, then you'll put yourself in a position to win, hopefully on a weekly basis.
I want to ask you about Xavier Hutchinson, drafted him in the 6th round. And we've talked about the draft for so long, and I know that your philosophy is, hey, what can this guy do for us? Like, can he be a 4th down player? Can he fill in 3rd downs? Where's he going to fit for us? He's gone from a 6th rounder to a guy that's given you meaningful reps over the last 3 years. What has he meant to this offense, and how have you seen him evolve, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, everybody loves X, and it's hard not to love what he brings to the table. Even when we drafted him, we liked his size. He had strength. He had toughness. He had good straight line speed. Coach Campbell spoke very highly of him and the fact that he lasted as long as he did. I think there was some what's the issue with the player, but from the minute he's walked in the building to now, that's all he's done is put his head down, and he's worked, and he's taken advantage of every opportunity that he's been given. Even in going back to last year, they're getting to play against Green Bay, 3rd down, making a catch. So he's a perfect example of a player that's taken every advantage of his opportunity, has a right attitude, has a right approach. He smiles, he works. Nobody practices harder or runs more than X does, and he's earned the respect of his teammates. We love having him on the team, and he's the ultimate embodiment of what a Houston Texan football player is really about.
Nick Chubb, it feels like everybody who analyzes the team wants to figure out where is he at versus where he was. Well, where he is pretty good right now, and he was very good on Sunday.
Nick's a very efficient runner. He's very instinctive. He has good vision. He's got good balance. He's got good playing strength, and he's usually going forward. So there haven't been a lot of negative runs with him on the field. So it's a combination of the blocking and the offensive line doing their job and the tight ends, and then the backs being where they're supposed to be. But Nick's been nothing but a pro. We got him a little bit late to the team in June, so kind of really it was training camp was his first opportunity to assimilate to some of the things that we're doing. But Nick's done a really good job, and so the combination of him and Woody, they've kind of complemented each other fairly well here, over the first 5 or 6 weeks. So hopefully we continue to build on the things that they're doing.
Last couple of weeks, Nick Caserio has used Blake Fisher as a 6th offensive lineman. What have you seen? How has he done in that role, and what have you seen from Blake kind of accepting that role and doing some good things with it?
Yeah, for sure.
This was Johnny's idea, by the way. I think Nick listens to Texans radio. I don't know, but Johnny's been calling for this, so I just thought I'd put it out there.
That's right.
No, Blake's really done a good job. And some of it is just having a right mindset and mentality and explaining to the player, here's why we're doing this. So we've had to deal with some things at tight end. So you're just trying to create, if you can create an advantage for yourself offensively. But Blake's a big, strong guy, and the players that he's blocking as a jumbo tight end are no different than the players that he's blocking when he's playing tackle. So some of it is just you're removed one spot out, and we put them in motion on the one or the shift. Yeah. It's just understanding of blocking assignments, and the distribution of blockers maybe is a little bit different than they are at tight end than they would be at tackle. But really good, really good approach, and he accepted that responsibility, and he certainly helped us on Sunday.
Okay, so I remember a playoff game. I think when you were with the Patriots and Ravens, and you were moving, I can't remember who the running back was. Maybe it was Ridley. You were moving running backs and making them ineligible, making the offensive linemen eligible. Obviously, the rules changed. But we had that, I can't remember what play it was. We had a good play off to the left side. Maybe it was a Woody run. But on the far side, and I saw X kind of saw Blake, and he thought he should be on the line. How difficult is that to make sure that the receiver's like, hey, remember, Blake is eligible, you're off the ball? How do you kind of communicate all that, make sure the receivers know it?
Yeah, you just have to make sure. So you'd practice during the course of the week, and just to make sure that when you're looking to your left or right, you understand that potentially could be the tight end. So the mechanics are when that player comes in, he has to report, so it alerts the defense. Then offensively, you just have – I mean, we think he had a penalty because we ended up covering up the tight end, who's not a tackle, but he's a tackle. So just have to make sure the mechanics are clean on that overall operation.
It feels like everybody's caught a pass for this football team, Nick. And when you look at Woody with the receiving touchdown against the Titans, then everybody who caught touchdowns against the Ravens and throughout the entire season, how much does that help you as opponents have to prepare for the Houston Texans and what you might throw at them?
Yeah, we feel it's a versatile skill group overall, and the plays are designed. You run your route knowing you could get the ball at any point. And part of the job of the quarterback is to understand the concept, understand the progression of the play, and just go to the right spot with the football. So there might be certain plays that are designed for a specific player, and you might have to formation it accordingly. And other players a little bit more all-purpose. So we have confidence in the players that are on the field. So we distributed the ball fairly well. CJ distributed the ball fairly well on Sunday against the Ravens. So anytime that you can just use multiple skill players and just throw it to the open guy, as simple as that sounds, sometimes it's all it takes. And, if you can get equal distribution, then it's a lot harder for the defense to kind of figure out really what are they trying to do or where are they going with the football.
Defensively, Nick, MJ Stewart moved into the lineup, and I bring this up because we were sometime during training camp and I saw him, and he made a comment about how he was aging like fine wine. And I thought it was a really interesting comment to make. But when you talked about stopping Henry, going back and watching the game, MJ was a big part of that, and he has been a big part of what you've done defensively the last couple of weeks. Whether he's a safety or not the rest of the year, what he's given you the last couple of weeks have been pretty good. What have you seen with MJ in that spot next to Kalen?
Yeah, MJ's been great. So total professional. Very instinctive, tough, runs well. And here's a player, when you look at the arc of his career from the time he was drafted to where he is now, it's certainly changed. I mean, he was a slot corner. He played corner at North Carolina. Yep. And then once he got to the NFL, kind of transitioned to call it big nickel to safety. And then when we signed him, the idea was that he would be one of our core contributors in the kicking game, and he's been one of our best kicking game players since we signed him. So now his role defensively has grown, but he's also still contributing to the kicking game. He's made multiple tackles on kickoff coverage, so it just speaks to his mindset. It speaks to his mindset, speaks to his attitude, speaks to his professionalism, speaks to his toughness. So can't say enough good things about the way MJ has handled himself, not only this year, but over the course of her career since he's been here.
Can we name Pitre's position a special name like the Texan or something like that, Nick, because he does so many different things?
Yeah, we can call it the football player. So he's just a football player, and wherever you play him, good things usually happen. So he's a versatile player. He's very smart. He's very instinctive. He's very tough. He runs well. He plays physical. He plays urgently, and he's taken the ball away here over the last 2 games. So among the league leaders, interceptions. So nobody works harder than JP just at his job, and whatever we've asked him to do, whether it's just play nickel, whether it's play nickel and safety, whether it's just play safety, he's embraced that. So he does everything that you want a football player to do, and he represents everything that our program is about.
Okay, so you know that I'm contractually obligated to ask you about 2 things every interview. Number
the draft, that's one of them.
One is a scouting report, but we got a bye week, so I'm not going to ask you about that.
Okay.
So I'm going to combine the 2. I want you to give me a scouting report on what your rookies have done thus far this year for you, Nick.
Yeah, they've made contributions. All of them, 4 or 5 of them really have played a decent amount, including J-Rock. I know he played and we put him on IR, but I would say they've been consistent from the time they've walked in the building until now, and they've taken advantage of their opportunities. Got to have a good attitude, have the right approach, have the right mindset. We felt that when we drafted them that at some point they were going to be able to make a contribution to the team, and they've done that. And even some of the players in the later rounds who, whether they're on a roster or they're on a practice squad, even a guy like Luke Lachey who's on a practice squad, he's certainly improving and making progress. So that's all you want to see from younger players is from the time that they started to where they are now, that they're improving and making progress. And I'd say those players certainly fall into that category.
All right, so no scouting report this week. We'll do the Seattle Seahawks next week. But I wanted to ask you about the division. Your thoughts on the big picture here, Nick, as Jacksonville and the Colts are off to a pretty good start here.
Yeah, we've talked before we played Jacksonville, and I've said it. Jacksonville's a good football team. Like, they've improved. They've done a good job. Liam's done a good job with the team, and they lead the league in takeaways. So I would say there's a direct correlation between their record and what they've done taking away the football. So It's every year. I mean, the expectation is your division is going to be as competitive as any in the league, and I'd say that's certainly the case in our situation. I think the big thing is focusing on the Houston Texans. What are the things that we have to do in order to improve, and then really keeping the focus on Seattle. At some point, we're going to play Jacksonville. We're going to play Indy. We're going to play Tennessee again. But you can't get too caught up in some of the big picture things. You kind of have to keep the focus on the here and now, which is, in our situation, is kind of cleaning up some things here relative to the Texans this week, and then shifting our focus to Seattle the following week.
The old saying in a lot of things is, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. You can't stand still. So in this league, that's got to be so difficult because you look around the league. You mentioned the AFC South. You look at the Patriots beating Buffalo on the road and that kind of thing. Nothing stays the same. Things keep moving, so you have to keep moving forward with your team.
The one thing that's consistent in this league is change. So every year, whether it's personnel, whether it's teams, how the season unfolds. So that's the big picture perspective. You always have to bring it back to the short term and the focus on control what you can control, keep the focus on your team. And if we play Houston Texans football the right way, we're going to give ourselves an opportunity to go out there and win, and then it's going to come down to our execution in critical situations.
So when you go into a bye week with a couple of wins, everybody's telling you, attaboy, you've done great. This thing looks great. Come off scoring 44 points. Defense has been holding it down. So I'm going to go the other way. What are a few things that you think that this offense, defense, even special teams got to improve on to get to the highest level possible for this team?
Yeah, ball security and some of the mental errors offensively are some things that we can control and we can certainly clean up. And then defensively, just making sure that we continue to be assignment sound and tackling are going to be important. And then in a kicking game, we just have to make sure that we're sound. I mean, it seems like every week we're seeing a block punt, a block field goal, a turnover in a kicking game. So we just want to make sure that we're mitigating that risk in those areas. So if we can do those 2 or 3 things in each area, hopefully we're going to put ourselves in pretty sound footing.
Nick, I know you and all the teams try out guys every week, and we've talked about this previously, but how has it changed, if at all, and how does it work? Because that's got to be so difficult to schedule for the players and the teams to get guys around the country trying out for clubs.
For sure. There's logistics that are involved, so that's where there just has to be communication, and there's such a vast pool of players that are out there. You try to pare it down into a cohort of players. Like, there's a reason potentially why you're doing that. So I would say our process typically is, once the rosters and the practice squads are set, who's still out there, who's still available, do we have a decent grade on a player, what's our evaluation, is this a player we need to get more information on? So we'll do that the first 3 to 4 weeks of what we've done. Once we get into October, then it's going to be a little bit more case by case. Injuries, do we lose a player? Do we have a spot? Right. So our approach and focus is maybe a little bit different than some other teams. We're not like a high volume, just bring in a number of players just to work them out. We try to have a very specific reason. But to your point, Mark, these players are all over the country. They're not all in Houston. They could be in California. They could be in the Northeast. They could be down in Florida. So you typically have to allocate 24 to 48, typically travel day, workout, physical, so you have the information, and then by the end of the day, you're either going to keep that player or you're going to send them out, but at least you have more information than you had otherwise previously.
Has there ever been talk of, say, a mid-season or every couple of months combine of sorts where you bring in guys and executives can travel and see them all at once?
Saying league-wide?
Yeah.
No, we haven't had that discussion yet.
Okay.
So I think the closest thing are some of the specialist camps that kind of take place in the off-season.
Okay.
Where you have a number of snappers, punters, and kickers that are all in one spot, and sometimes they open it up. I do think this is kind of in the infantile stage, but I think there is going to be some kind of NFL showcase or in November or something like that. I could be wrong, but I remember reading a memo on that.
Yeah,
so before we better verify that before we put that out there.
Okay. So it might happen. Yeah.
So Mark asked you about the special teams, kind of the right way of saying this, the rash of block field goals. And the other thing is happening in the league are these guys dropping the ball at the goal line. Now, we heard for so long that when we hear Edelman or Gronk or whomever talk about the Patriots, like, you don't dive for the ball. You keep it protected. How do you make sure these dopes aren't dropping the ball at the goal line and costing games like they have for the Cardinals and the Colts?
No, you educate your players and you show them examples and make sure they understand the rules associated with it. Because sometimes the players, they don't even understand the rules. when the ball goes out of the end zone, okay, depending on the down and distance, what the ramifications could be. And there are certain situations where it might be appropriate, 4th down or a 2-point conversion. Those are a few times where, all right, it's sort of your last gasp and you're trying to do that. Otherwise, I mean, our players are coached to run through the end zone with the ball, and then once you're in the end zone, then you can celebrate and do whatever you're going to do. But the only thing you can do is just educate them, and a lot of times actions speak a little louder than words. So when you look around the league, we just don't want to be in a situation where we affected the team in a negative way.
When you scored, what was your end zone celebration?
I was horrible. I didn't have any celebrations.
Nothing?
I'll give you an anecdote. One. So I forget what year it was, my junior or senior year, and I wasn't a scrambler because I couldn't run, but I happened to get out of the pocket, went on the 2-yard line, and ran around the left end, got to the end zone, and we had a track on the other side of the end zone. So I slipped and fell right on my ass after I went in the end zone. So that was about the extent of it when I ran into the end zone.
And you played in the day when college players couldn't really celebrate. I mean, it was not a thing, right? So
yeah, I'd say the league, you're seeing a little bit more celebration. And look, we encourage our players. D'Amico encourages the players, like, have fun. Enjoy it. You scored a touchdown. You should be proud. You should have some joy.
Yeah.
And our players sometimes take it to one extreme relative to the other. But we want them to be excited about scoring a touchdown.
I just laughed because that same thing happened to me. I ended up in a long jump pit. But there's long jump pit right there.
We had one close, Johnny, honestly, the way our track was set up. Because we played our turf field. We had a track right around it.
Yeah.
And actually, the long jump pit was right in that corner.
It was far in the left corner. And I went up for a pass, caught it, hit down, and went right through this. It was miserable. So it wasn't a celebration. That's for sure.
I have a semi-serious football question. Okay, so quality control coaches, we hear about these coaches, and that's evolved over time too, because in this building alone, we've had Mike McDaniel and Matt LaFleur and Robert Saleh, people like that. Yep. And that was a long time ago, of course. How has that job changed, though? Because I got to think the analytics guys coming in have taken some of those duties, if you will. You tell us.
It's changed significantly, and I'd say technology has been a huge part of that. So if you go back, when I started, which was like the Ice Age, I mean, it was beta decks and beta tapes. Mm-hmm. So our system was probably a little bit different than most, but we were literally taking each play and diagramming it on a sheet of paper, all 22. We padded. So call it 70 plays. Took you, honestly, 7-8 hours to do. So went away with the padding. And then with the Exos machines, the laptops, then you have to input the data. You need a coach that's going to input the data. So take the most recent game. So the Tampa Bay Seattle game, we're going to go offensive, defensively. You're going to have a coach that goes through, puts the information in, down and distance, formation, play call, result. And then once that information is in, then you may have somebody on your data or analytics team take that information and spit out, okay, what are some of the things that you're seeing? What are they doing in this down and distance? So it's definitely evolved. Typically, you probably have one person that does the input, then you have another coach, probably one or two that are working together on the actual breakdown. But technology has made it a lot cleaner and more efficient. So once you put however many games in, if you want to pull all the third downs, you just click a tab and you can pull all the third downs. You can watch your third down reel. So technology has expedited everything. But yeah, going from over the course of 25 years, it's certainly changed and evolved. There's no question about it.
So, Nick, with a late Monday night game in Seattle, we'll get back Tuesday morning sometime.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And it's not the shortest of weeks, but it's a shorter week. And it's two NFC teams. So as much as self-scout always happens, how much of this week becomes, all right, we got to prepare for Seattle, but we got to sprinkle in some San Francisco as well because we have those two kind of that short week coming after the Monday night game?
Yeah, this is really a good week where you can do multiple things at once because you're not preparing for an opponent. So look at what have we done the first 5 weeks. That's the Texans. We know Seattle is the next opponent. We've done the advanced scout. The advanced scout that's working on that team will probably have it done by Wednesday or Thursday. And then you also have another advanced scout that is going to start to work on the next opponent. That's the typical part of their process. Right. So I think the big thing you're trying to do is have the information available. So whenever the coaches sort of get to it, maybe they want to look at it on their own over the weekend, maybe look a little bit at Seattle, understand the focus is there, but maybe there's some things foundationally that you can do relative to San Francisco so that after the game, you've done at least a little bit of work and you're not starting from scratch. So it's a good opportunity this week to kind of maximize and use all the resources that we have.
Yep.
But you have a little time off, so are we talking South Beach, Bourbon Street, Nick? What are we talking about here?
My week's not going to change, so I'm going through a normal process this week relative to the workflow. On the weekend, the biggest difference is we're not playing. So if it works out where there's a game that I can get to, great. If not, then we'll probably have middle school soccer, so we'll be available for that. So nothing too exotic or exciting on this end.
So a little more time with the kids, and this harkens back to when you were a kid. So give me a TV show or two, non-sports and non-wrestling, that you might have enjoyed as a kid.
No, I'll give you one. I watched the Dukes of Hazzard. I was a Dukes of Hazzard.
Okay, the Dukes of Hazzard.
All right.
Very nice.
Yes.
He was ready with that one.
Exactly. Yeah. Did you watch?
You didn't think I would have one, Mark, that's for sure.
Wasn't Dukes of Hazzard and Dallas kind of a back-to-backer on?
I didn't watch Dallas. I wasn't like really a big
Dallas strike me as your kind
So
of show.
I would say
Dukes of
I'll give you
Hazzard?
two. I'll give you Dukes of Hazzard and Saved by the Bell.
Saved by the Bell is awesome. I mean, my gosh.
I know people don't think I have a
didn't see
life.
that
I
one
know
coming.
that's probably like the perception of me, but when I was younger, I actually probably had a little bit more fun than people realize.
Younger John Harris, Tiffany Amber Thiessen was like
Elizabeth Berkley in the
then
show.
I met Paige Williams, and I'm good.
Okay, you're good. You're good. All right, Nick, before we get into any trouble here, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, fellas.